Chapter 5, Army Railroad Yard Subcourse, AIPD. Yard personnel, their duties. 3-1, General. The operation of the yard at the railroad terminals requires a large number of workers assigned to the variety of the duties. Large staff exists of inspecting, maintaining, the repairing, and the motive power and the rolling stock. The chapter deals with the whose duties directly relate to the yard switching work, supporting the personnel with extensive repairs of the cars, of the locomotives, the track layout covered in the other text. The chapter also discussed some of the documents reviewed, reports, and used in the yard work proceeding involved the switching yards and delays. 3-2, the yard master is in charge of all the works in the yard, responsible for directing, supervising all operating employees, and directly supervising employees of the car repairing platoon of the railway equipment maintenance company assigned as inspectors. In addition to those duties, the yard master have then already been covered with the first two subparagraphs followed, giving them some other duties responsibility. The second explains the planning necessary for the efficient yard operation. Duties responsible for the yard master that relates to the switching, including the submitting or the admitting of all trains and yard drafts of the cars in the yard without delay, with switching all inbound or in arrivals and in the way of the takes at least time inbound arrivals in the way that takes the least time, making up the outbound trains, arranging the crews to move them out of the yard. He does as much of the switching of the train building out of his shift as he can. He trying to leave the yard in the best possible shape at the shift end. The yard master administrates the duties and includes the supervision of all clerical personnel charged with the keeping of the records, complying information on the forms of the permanent record of all the cars passing through the yard, maintaining yard master journals showing a complete permanent record of the yard movements, which can be readily understood in relieving the yard master furnishing. Superior officers report the accidents, personal injuries, and delays of the trains, making appropriate recommendations. He also does the duty of relating to the safety. He encourages the safety program designation to eliminate personal injury and property damage. Planning is important. The yard master, he makes think that in all time, ahead at all times, what happens in the next shift is just for the next concern. What happens is his own. For instance, the shop track and the most yard is separate from the main classification yards. When the shop cars other than cannot be switched at once to their proper tracks, and the policy of many of the yards to the switch them to hold the track on other cars of the local and empties and non-revenue freight. They are also likewise to switch to the track of the non-revenue freight and any cargo road hauls itself before the switch and yet changes. The yard master should make every effort to switch the track, but and put back only such cars actually being belonging on it. Frequently, a yardmaster can have a crew of spaces cars on the shop track. The convenient that is relief can, because of the extra yard crews may be require advance notice to 2 to 3 hours. The yardmaster should estimate a workload of the next shift so that they can order enough crews and be already on the new shift to start. However, he must study the inbound lineup and compare it to all cars that are already switched to be in position to advise dispatcher with extra freight what extra freights may be ordered on the next shift. 3-3, the yard clerks. Number of the yard clerks required, depending on the type of the degree of the automation and the volume of the work to be done. If the automation is not used, the 3 clerks will be required at each of the shift. On one clerk is on the inbound clerical work, one does the outbound clerical work, and third is assigned to the outside working on the checking of the cars, where the large number of the tracks and more clerks may be required for the outside work. Clerical duties are more considerable among the railroads and the different localities. Chapter 2, paragraph 2.7 explains the main duties of the outside yard clerk. Following the paragraph of the subparagraph discusses the inbound outbound clerical work. Inbound clerical work is an important part of the inbound clerical work is entering the form of the initial number of all cars arriving in the yard. Same railroads are used to record the book of the part of the pages in which the number of the 099 car numbers usually taken from the waybills are entered on the pages corresponding to the last 2 digits of each car. For example, ATSSF is 35709 would be entered as an 09 on the page of ATS 75 357. Another often is the 10th column number sheet of the column head of the 0 to 9. The cars entered according to the last digit automated system. The information entered into the system is accessed by the railroad employees to check the progress of the freight cars on which the railroads are interested in inbound freight The inbound clerical checks of the waivers of bills and completed with the track check to make the certain numbers of the check agree with those of the way bills of the car, every bill and bill every car. The check is marked according up to the grouping is shown in the typical grouping of the area of the back of the figure 211 of the train sheets. Information may be entered on the automated system. Numbers of other reporters other necessary. These include arrival notices, local consignees hold notice, reway reports necessary for bulk load, cars with the lost part of the lading. Seal reports all yard of the stamp at each way of the bill of the part back with the junction stamp of the which shows the date of the time of the arrival, the name of the yard, and mark. It is possible to check at the time the interval between the various yards. Such notations often start in the inquires result in corrective action with the cars being subject to unreasonable layovers at the point of the origination and destination. Most yards maintain an inbound-outbound sheet which shows the engine number, the conductor's name, arrival, the departure number, the loads and empties in each of the car train, or as a drag. A drag is a general long or slow freight train, as a draft or cars usually without a caboose handled with the yard engine on the main track. The train sheet is usually maintained from 100 hours or 2359 past the hour. B. Outbound clerical work. Outbound train has been called. The clerical assigned outbound duties composed with the gross tonnage for the use of the outbound and recorded differently slightly among the railroads. Generally consists of the prepared with the shows the initial numbers of contents, gross weight, and the point of the origin designation of each car. Special handling instructions for hazardous materials will be listed. Some consist of may and should show a consignor or a consignee. The information will be electronically transmitted to the next yard to enable the yard master to make the plans for the switching of the train. The following subparagraphs discuss the other reports and forms checks that may be used to ensure the prompt or efficient car delivery. 1. The wheel report is the responsibility of the train conductor. They shall have the initial numbers, type of the car, station number to which the car is motion, and the date, and the columns of the station number, the data to be filled in with the car delivered to the yard at the end of the conductor's run. 2. A train lineup with showing information such as the number of the car, various groupings, and orders which they stand and discuss in Chapter 2, Paragraph 2.6 of Telegraph, and the dispatcher from all includes the engine number, the name of the conductor and engineer, and their time of duty and tonnages to the train. 3. A home route is often prepared and attached inside of the waybill with carries the moves of the railroad to another. The movement is also called interchangeable. The card is authority for the unloading of the railroad, returning for the car empty of the railroad from which it was received underloaded. 4. The track check of the outbound train made in the outside of the check against the waybill's outbound check of the be sure that the train in the station order for the train check is the outbound car record similar to the described in the inbound train as are completed. 3. 4. The bill rack. Although automated systems have greatly streamlined simplified paperwork requirements, the bill rack remains an important piece of the equipment of the yard personnel. It ranges from a crudely made affair with the waybill axis made in the chalk into an oriented plate glass in front arrangement, neatly painted figures to represent each of the track number is used in an ideal rack for the storage space for the office of space underneath it is shown in figure 3.1 of the bill rack tells the observer the complete story that is often only to briefly outline in the yard master journal. The rough entry to the track 13 of the journal showing 12 AY cars may become important when they waybill are taken out of the rack and examined. The bill may show the imperishable freight of the car previously been delayed by 48 hours undergoing the repair. 3 and 4 cars of the ammunition for the port of embarkation. Such freight should be moved on the next train on the yard. The following subparagraphs further discuss the bill rack. The rack always contains a separate section set for the track. Every track over the yard master jurisdiction. The bills are also placed in the exact order of the cars and stand on the tracks. Which is a crew switches are loaded on the yard. The yard master switches the waybills appropriate slots of the bill rack. The exact orders of the cars enter the track. The westbound yards and the cars are switched on the west end of the track. The bills are usually placed in the front as they are ready to a particular track slot. When the cars are switched, the east end of the bills are placed behind them. Behind those already. In the rack. Carefully switching the bills and justification. Important switching of the cars. When the bills are correctly switched, one of them may extend the standing of the merely and leafing from the item. The separation of the bills of the track make it a simpler matter to estimate and compute the tonnage of any of the track planning for the outbound movement. The standing of the ways of the bill in a particular slot in the rack should agree to the entirely journal. However, that it is extremely dangerous to look at a track 9 slot, for example, because it contains no way bills. Assume the track is clear and the journal is never. And that the journal never, the back rack is the authority for determining the clear track in which the train may be ordered in the yard. Particular slot of the bill rack must be empty, for the mistake may have been made. Switching the bills and the cars may occupy the track. Carefully, yards never trust the bill rack implicitly to many people use it. Instead, they rely on the journal in which they are permitted to make entries. 358. Yard switching crew and activity. The yard crew is generally composed of the 4 members, the engineer, conductor, 2 brakemen, and the brakeman, also called the switchman. The one working farthest rewarded the engineer, also known as the rear brakeman or the fieldman. Other than the forward and the head brakeman, the work requires the additional brakeman be assigned. Also, the steam motives is used, and the fireman assigned with a longer lead of the larger number. The switch access to the extra brakeman and the switch tender is assigned to the yard conductor, sometimes called the switch foreman, in the complete charge of the crew and responsibility for carrying out of the yard master's instructions and safe expeditionary. Usually the yard master delivers instructions, and writing the conductor should insist that verbal instruction complicated but the apt to be confusing. Computers listed are often be used and available, for the conductor's duty is to inform his crew fully that as it was to be done in the method and what it was to be followed. B. The crew switches make up the train places on the car on the side of the dispersed for loading and unloading. Does all the switching moving with the cars terminally in the yard. The assigned yard methods of switching may be used. The principle that they are is much the same. The first cut of the train at the top of the lift of the switch were the same. The first cut of the train at the top of the lift, the switch were listed in the back of the figure 2-3, with the switch that follows. The conductor sends the rear man, brakeman, field man down to the track 5 to make the cut. The field man reaches the car, the number 19495. He uncouples the far end of this car. He signals the engineer to back up, and the 228 cars are pulled out of the lead. The head boardmans of the 4th are counting on the number 19495. The field man lines the lead switch from track 16. The conductor signals the engineer to kick and win the draft out of the cut of the cars, and picked up at enough speed to stop at the signal is given. The head of the brakeman generally rides the draft and pulling the couple of the cars between the 3rd and 4th couples. The draft stops at 3, and 3 cars couples are rolling in one track on their momentum. The field opens the switch on the track 6, and the 6 cars are kicked to the tracks in the same manner. This process is repeated as many times as there are cuts in the cars to be placed on the tracks, but brakemen have copies of the switch list that they may be preceded with verbal instruction for the conductor. With the use of the list of the type of the cuts may be counted with the original cut as well as in the cars. Each of the cut is on a particular track. The crew completes the switching list as in car left over. The last every of the switch leads that reads 3 to 4, or only 2 cars remaining. Every cut must be picked up off its track. The reverse order of the switch list until makes its discovered correct. C. The good judgment must be exercised by the conductor signaling the engineer. He must estimate the speed of the drafting, regulating with the by his signals the speed of which when the cars enter the respective tracks. The slight of the grade of the lead means that the car needs not to be as kicked as hard as the lead were level. About 6 kilometers per hour for the maximum safe speed for moving cars to couple onto the stationary ones. If the space of a track is limited, the conductor must see that the car enter into the slower speed within the track of the plenty of the room was clear. Conversely, a switch to the list allowed of the 15-20 cars of the clear track of the conductor should have driven down the track as possible, leaving with additional entries for fast-moving cars. Striking stationary ones that cause serious costly damage, including damage to the couplers and drafting gear, shifting and loading, and requiring for the car to go through the shop track of the readjustment, loading of the damage to the content of the closed cars resulting from the freight claims, knocking on the empty of the cars, the soft center requiring labor to the recentering, breaking on the door latches of the hopper, the gondola loading on the bulk commodity, dropping of the load on the ground. Insufficient speed of the cars is also a problem. Cars that are not kicked enough to clear the lead of they can cause the loss in time in the knock of the kick enough to clear the lead causes a lost time in the switching operation, which would push the second time into the clearly underpowered instead of the momentum. The only known rule and exceeding difficulty to follow is the kick cars hard enough to put, not too hard. Or kick them but not too easy. When the stop of the signal engineer is being relayed, there are 2 to 3 brakemen. The signal should be given enough to allow for all delay in engineering, seeing and executing it. Okay, 3.6, anticipating delays. In addition, with careful planning, proper execution of duties of the yard worker for successful yard operations also depend on third and most tangible factor, the skill and experience of the yard workers in proper detection and elimination of delays. A minor incident delay may in escape detection and lead to the event this defeat the planned operation. There is no simple hard of the fast rules for dealing with countless occurrences that may hamper with the efficient yard operations, eliminating depending primarily on the sense of the team play and good judgment exercised on all yard employees. If the crew handling on the just job sees the opportunity to speed overall the operation, either the increasing their pace to clear the way of another crew, accepting a monetary delay of their work to permit another crew to complete the task of higher priority, such opportunity should be exploited fully and brief of the complete operation and the concern of every man in the yard. Each much work with the idea of the mind. 3.7 yard delays. Most of the railroads now in fear of the consequences of delay the mainline trains that often those conscientious that they have should been a delay occurring off the main track. Aside from the possibilities of citing as accidents, rules violations, and delays of the mainline track, the commercial railroads do not usually have the serious consequences. They are not too numerous. Unless the schedule is extremely rigid, the most passenger trains, fast freight, can make up a 10-minute delay, and if they have a 50 to 60 kilometer or if the 50 to 60 kilometer, 5,600 kilometers in which they do it in delays in the yard of the delays. However, they're almost never made up. They start the chain of the events and they increase the delay to 3 to 4 times the original figure. These delays from the pyramid become serious whether the yard conductors could prevent the outline of the detail following subparagraphs. The typical yard delay assumes that the yard master is building up the schedule manifesting to the train of the track 5. The combination yard illustrated in figure 1-2, the manifesting of the train is in the as through the freight using the carrier of the property of the cargo. As already the short on the training receives notice of the 4 expeditionary cars of the ahead of the train. The train will be sealed readily and ready to 2130 at the side of the manufacturing plant warehouse shown in the upper left of the illustration. Note that note that they are on the side of the main track opposite of the yard. The yard master sends a crew into the track of the 5 and the instruction couples in the 45 care and pull them under the storing, stopping the 4 car lengths of the air plug. The 4 car lengths represent the place of the 4 expedited cars on moving the track down 5. However, the switchman discovers that only 40 cars are on the track, and the last car, the number that does not agree to the only given him by the yard master. According to the checks of the checking, the switching of the east of the discovers the holding of out of the 5 cars belonging to the track 5, unknown to the yard. Alright. I'm noting that the yard master of these 5 crews will be held on the convenience of the switching the 10 minutes, so are used and waiting for them. 2. When the crew pulls on the west end of the delay, the 5 minutes from another crew making a long double getting off the 5, the crew heads of the cross type of the mainline track pick up the 4 cars with the head of the end of the track 5 that the yard master has planned on the crew crossing the 2120 just ahead of the first class of number 87. However, the conductor calls out the dispatcher 2130 at 2130 discovers the number the 87 is too late. The dispatcher grants the permission to cross, and it's after the number 87 it clears. When it clears, the engineer whistles out to the flagman. The switches are open and the crews waits for the 5 minutes prescribed. The rules block signal territory. Upon crossing, the conductor again calls the dispatcher inquiring if the permissible leave the switches open because he will want to recross the yard between in a minute of 5 minutes just as soon as the couple of the 4 cars. The dispatcher refuses the request as he thought through the tonnage of the train and waiting for the sighting of the 3 kilometers east of the yard. The previous permission to head out the proceeding of the west west just as soon as number 87 passes. The yard crew opened the mainline track, switching the black signal, closing the road train. Displayed the meaning slow, proceeding with the caution. Switch were permitted to remain open, and the road train would receive the red stopping block, and if had gone through 1.5 kilometers, that it would be forced to stop in the little of its train. Dispatcher orders the switch closed, and the instruction yard conductor to wait until his road train clears. Meanwhile, the yardmaster sends out another West End crew to them, almost the opposite end, with the discovering predicament of the crew on the other side of the main to start the air inspector on track 5. He must now have them hooked up temporarily. Air hoses line of 100 feet of length to each of the air plug to the first car. The crew arrived at the four couples at approximately 40 minutes of the loss, according to the yardmaster's original plan. But the blue light discussed in Chapter 4 of the Chapter 5 prohibits entry, and the four cars must be inspected and air tested before we're ready for a movement. The inspection personnel working on the Track 5, when they finish the 5 minutes at most, more or less in inspection setting of the four cars against the outbound train. Fortunately, the road engine has no trouble in making the road air test. The train eventually departs 30 minutes later, and 30 minutes might easily develop into 60 minutes if and out of the yard the train was forced to take a siding because of first-class train behind it. A first-class train is scheduled for the train designated with the timetable authority that had the train departed on the line. At the time, it might have been able to go to the yard with the scheduled stop where it would enter the yard to clear the train behind it. Yardmaster must write a letter of superiors, possible telephone train explaining why he cannot comparatively simply job of getting in the fast freight of the only 50 cars incidentally likely to happen frequently in a busy rail yard. Preventing the delays of the yard conductors can often prevent delays adhering to the following rules. 1. Never hold out cars with switching contrary to their listing unless the yard master has granted permission, keeping in mind that any other car is held out or remained on the yard or must be before shift ends. 2. Ask another yard conductor for priority movement if it will result in at least less delay in the work. 3. If the crew is blocked and another doing the work of the lower priority conductors have to coordinate with their movements so that the higher priority work is delayed. 4. Work is not delayed. 4. If the crew is working on the distance of the yard office, the developments of the yard master could not foresee what the work is assigned, but the conductor should class the yard master to tell him the changes. 5. The crew is unexpectedly avoidably delayed and prevented of the assigned work under the conductor shall have the call the yard master, tell him the delay, and ask if there are other work that can be do. The other work that he can do, when possible, the conductor should phone the yard master at intervals, keeping the informed progress or lack of it. 3A. Engine crew. The engine crew consists of an engineer, fireman, and his steam. The motive power is used whenever under the direction of the yard of the conductor, the engineer supervises the fireman, both of the responsibility, safe expedition, operation of the locomotive. In addition, with the engine crew responsible for certain specific duties and the specific operations, these include promptly executing signals given to the ground crew, directly interrupting each hand of signals, exercising the right of the refuse the signal and not clearly understand calling, and the repeating of each other on other hand signals. Switch lights, colors, signal lights, aspects to certain both read signal similarities, answering whistle signals of the main track. While appropriate whistle signals, yard engine complying with the timetable's instruction across main tracks is question of signal when it is not to be used and reasonable believed it is to be unsafe to be the periodically inspecting lubricating of the running of the gear of the locomotive. 3.9. Inspection. Military railroad and means of the end of the car railroad platoon and means of a car repair platoon railway equipment maintenance accompanying the sign of the yards. The inspector each car examines and making the running repair to the cars entering the yard. And as their air inspector tested the air brake of the trains that are built up, and before the departure of the yard, the following subparagraphs further discuss the men in the yard and their work. The car inspector, one of the most important involved in the movement of the trains, is done by the car inspector. If defects are noticed with and corrected, and seriously consequences may follow. A defective is dispatched to the train. A defective car is dispatched into in a train. It could cause a derailment and length of the delay in settling the car off in a route. The typical method of using a car inspector to inspect the long trains is outlined in Chapter 2, Paragraph 2.7. B. The defects. Each car may be checked for over 200 possible defects. Inspectors required to make the inspection of the wheels, flanges, journal boxes, bearings, underframes, brake rigging, hand brakes, air brake equipment, grab or iron, still steps, draft gears, and many other parts. Roof sheets, ladders, and running boards or on closed-top cars may be inspected. Experience can usually inspect the car in less time than it takes to recount all the possible defects for which it was must inspected. See the air inspector. Inspector of other qualified all phases inspector, sometimes delayed by the air inspector testing only when the train is equipped. It is moved to the point where the air hose of the first car is connected to the ground air. The inspector coupled the air gauges between the hoses and started over the train, coupling with between the cars of the progress with all the hoses are coupled in sufficient pressure to be attained into the train line reservoir for the braking application is made of the train. The inspector examines the position of the travel, determining that enough of the braking is being exerted on the wheels of each car. Adjusting the linkage may be needed to cause brake shoes to exert great force. Every car is examined. The excessive air leak of the gauge is checked for determining the entire train leakage. The leakage is personal with permissible limits used 5 pounds per minute. The train was reported to the yardmaster is already for movement. Should defective be at bad order cars be found that cannot be repaired immediately, the car's inspector right up at the shop at the bad order of the train. The yardmaster has such cars cut out of the train. 310. The summary. The efforts of the various crews whose duties are outlined in the chair after coordinated with the extent of the work of the reading the train for the movement proceeding smoothly and quickly with readying the train for movement proceeding smoothly and quickly. When a train is received in the yard, numerous works goes into the action to perform the inside-outside clerical work, inspecting the defects, switching the according classification of the group of the double up, according to the designation set off of the order of the test train, air brake system, engine crew, and yard crews, and the inbound and outbound crew, car inspectors, air inspectors, other and all, and essential special jokes of the yardmaster supervising the entire operation with but one objective: keeping them into one of the yard and rolling out of the other. Chapter 4: Safety.